Hello guys, in this presentation I am explaining to you the reported speech and the difference there is with the direct speech. To understand the difference between direct speech and reported speech, let's have a look at two very simple sentences. In sentence number one, we have Frank said, "I like this town." In this sentence, we have Frank's exact words. Okay? Remember, these are Frank's exact words. What he actually said. In sentence number two, on the other hand, we have an incomplete sentence which we are about to complete. Okay? In sentence number two, it's not Frank's words anymore, but our own words. Okay? Our own words. So we would say, Frank said that he liked that town. Okay? These are two very different ways of saying the same thing. In number one, we have what we call direct speech. Why direct speech? Because we say directly what Frank said. On the other hand, in sentence number two, we have reported speech. Why do we call it reported speech? Because indirectly we say what Frank said. We say it with our own words, not his words. Now notice that there are some differences. When in direct speech we used I, in reported speech we use he. So there is a difference in pronoun. Perhaps the most important difference is the difference in the tense. From the present, we go to the past. And finally, we also have this other difference, the difference in this determiner, or we can also call it adverbial. In the reported speech, there is one concept which is very important, and that is the concept of transformation. Okay? And now we are going to see the main transformations you can see in reported speech. On the one hand, you have transformation in the verb. On the other hand, you have transformation in the pronouns. And on the other hand, you have transformation in the adverbials, which can be time adverbials or space adverbials. The most important of these transformations are mainly in the verbs, okay? In the verbs. Because here in the verbs, you will see most of the complications, okay? Because if a verb is in the present, this present becomes a past. Now, there are four types of reported speech. Okay, on the one hand, we have the statements, which are the normal sentences. On the other hand, we have the questions, then we have the orders, and finally we have the suggestions. Okay, each type requires a different type of transformation. Today we will only see statements. The rest, questions, orders, and suggestions, we will see on another day. We are going to see much more clearly in this table. In this table, you have all the tenses or the main tenses you can find in the English language. On the one hand here, you have the present simple. You have a sentence like, he works as a policeman. This becomes, she said that he worked as a policeman. So here you have the present simple, and the present simple becomes the past simple. What if the sentence is in the past simple? Then you need a past perfect, which is the past of the past. Then if you have the present continuous, he's working as a policeman, then in the reported speech you need to use the past continuous. Okay? On the other hand, if in the direct speech you have will becomes would in the reported speech. So we can say that in the verbs, from the direct speech to the reported speech, we can move one step forward to the past. So here I can summarize all the tenses transformations you can find. From the present simple, you go to the past simple. From the past simple, you go to the past perfect. From the present perfect, you go to the past perfect. From the will future, you go to would conditional. From present continuous, you go to past continuous. And finally, from past continuous, you go to the past perfect continuous. But what about if you have a model? Well, if you have a model, you need to use the past of the model. Okay? So, if in the direct speech you have can, you need could in the reported speech. If you have may in the direct speech, you will use might in the reported speech. Now be careful with must, because must doesn't require any transformation. Must remains must. On the other hand, if you have to, which is sort of the same thing, then you will have to apply the transformation and say had to. And of course will, which is a model as well, but we already discussed it in the previous section. Finally, we will see all the changes in adverbials which you can find in a sentence in English. If at the end of the sentence you have a word such as now, then in the reported speech you will need to substitute it with then. If you have an expression such as today, you need an expression such as that day. If you have tonight, you need to use that night. Yesterday or last week or last year, they become the previous day, the previous week, or the previous year, whatever you have said, okay? A month ago becomes the previous month or the month before. If we're talking about the future and you use tomorrow, then you will need an expression such as the following day. Next week becomes the following week. If you have next year, well, guess what you will need? I suppose it will be the following year. If we're talking about space, here becomes there, okay? And this becomes that. And the plural, these, they become those. Summarizing, all verbs we use in the reported speech, they move one way forward or backwards to the past. The same goes with time adverbials. As for space adverbials, they move a little bit far away. So what we have here goes there.